Coming up on this episode of Common Denominator.
But I am hearing on Fortune 500 companies that hybrid and remote work is not working from a production standpoint, and they're trying to bring people back to the office. And I'm wondering whether I'm going to have the guts myself to buy distressed office buildings.
Hey everybody, welcome to Common Denominator and Happy New Year. I'm Dave Azer, and if I'm hosting, that can only mean one thing. The normal host is sitting in the guest chair, Moshe Popack. Thanks again for having me back to interview you. Happy New Year, my friend.
Yes, Happy New Year to you as well. I really enjoy this process, kind of turning the tables and, hearing from the audience, from the guests and people just in general, and try to help as much as we can.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do today. You've got viewer questions, people who want to ask you your thoughts on real estate and finance. And so let's dive into some of these questions. We'll talk about real estate first.
Yeah.
This is a great one. What are some creative financing strategies instead of a traditional mortgage?
So instead of a traditional mortgage, I would think that, going to a private lender. However, it is expensive, but that's the environment we're in right now because banks are not necessarily going to lend. They're going to lend. What I'm hearing from the banks now is, especially commercial lenders, they're going to lend to the people that are current clients first. But if you see, and that's the thing, even if you're going to pay 12%, 11, 12%, that seems high. But don't get scared of that, because if you're paying 30, 40, 50 cents on what it was on the dollar, okay, so you'll buy the property and you'll pay that. And we've talked about this on the show before. You'll pay the high interest, let's say an extra 4 or 5% extra interest a year. But because you've been able to buy it for so cheap, in the end, your net cost might only be 70 cents in the dollar. If you're able, but that's the thing. It's always on the buy. So don't get scared off about that. And another way is just paying all cash. You go to your family and friends, and you maybe even make them partial partners, and you do all the work. You oversee the construction. You make sure you go to Home Depot. You get the workers together, and you do the work, and then you try to sell the property, and that's where you make sweat equity.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I was going to ask you that as a follow-up, that very specific thing. Have you had personal experience in business, pooling with family and friends, investing together, asking them for money? How has that worked out for you?
So I definitely have, especially when I started. My first deal, I went to many people, and I was starting out, right? So when you're starting out, no. Get comfortable hearing the word no. Unfortunately, I had an experience, and I think I've also said this before, where some of the people behind my back, because it was a great deal. I did find a great deal, but I'm starting out. What do I know? So, because I'm jumping in the ocean, right? I'm starting. You have all the self-doubt that's going on in your head, but you have to do that. That's the way it has to be. You have to do that. And then found out later that some of these people were trying to steal the deal from me. So you can have some of that. You can get lots of rejection. You have to not get discouraged about rejection. And then just start. Even if you don't get the best deal structure and you only get a small piece, but that experience going through buying a property, managing a property, fixing up a property, that experience gets you in the game. You have to be in the game. Have to be a player in the game in order to start.
So let's say people are watching or listening and they're like, you know what, he's right. I'm buying my first. I'm doing this. It's January 3rd or 4th. I'm buying a home. Okay, so let's talk about whether someone's buying a residential home or a multifamily home. Let's say it's a first-time home buyer. What are the things we need to look for? We always hear about schools, location. Whether it's something specific on the property or in the surrounding area, what are a few things that people should look out for?
I think the first thing, look at crime stats, right? I know for me, my wife, my kids, I'm constantly, that's first top. I want to feel safe. I want to feel safe. I want to know that the local police are really doing their job. I'd even overpay to have that safety. That's what I always think, especially nowadays, the crazy times now, but it's always kind of crazy, but you want safety. If you're sending your kids to public school, hopefully nearby, yes. And you have kids, right? You have kids and they're going to go to school. Yes, that's super important. Even if it's in the inside, run down the house, you can always fix that up. Location, and you get the right price, decent sized house, enough bedrooms that work for you. All those things you can work on, but try to get the best price in the best location.
I would add, I'm curious your thought on this, is if you're going to buy a residential property, a mistake that I made when I bought my first home was it was a little smaller than I thought I needed, but I said to myself, that's okay, I can just build an extension when I'm ready. That turned out to be super problematic. So, maybe if you go into it thinking, that's okay, I'll just add more house, doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah, there is a process, especially we live in Miami Beach. For some reason, it takes double the amount of time, just the preliminary before construction, like getting permits and just getting through the process to actually get a shovel in the ground. So you have to speak to people. That's also a very good thing. In the local real estate is very local, that I've gone through it. I always say that whenever you're taking advice, make sure that person has gone through, right, the advice that they're giving you. If they haven't, ignore it. So, and assume double the time if a construction project, and double the money.
Yeah.
Even though it's out there, it's like, no way, that's not going to be me. It might be you. There's a good chance.
And ask your HOA all the questions ahead of time too, because that could turn out to be.
We're having that a lot, by the way, in the state of Florida, because of new regulations. There's a lot more reserves for 20, 30, 40-year re-inspections if you live in a condo, right? So you think, oh, nobody will get a special assessment for $100,000. You're like, wow, where'd that come from? Because concrete work and all this roof work and construction, that's super expensive.
Yep. Okay, another viewer question. Should I build a revenue stream by renting properties? What are the risks?
The risks are if you only buy a few units, you have your expenses, right? Insurance is going up, taxes are going up. You just have your monthly expenses, utilities. If you're not, the risks in buying rental property is am I going to be able to find a tenant that's going to pay the rent that I'm going to pay? I mean, that's going to cover my expenses first. But also, even if I find a tenant, maybe they'll lose a job. And maybe they decide, you know what, go ahead and evict me. We deal with that all the time. 5, 6, 8 months, they could be sitting in the property because sometimes I know during COVID, the eviction process slowed down tremendously. It was like people were in the units and we had to cover that for almost a year, right? And the taxes are due, like I said, the insurance is due, you just have to pay it. And you have to have a buffer. You have to have reserves.
Right, because I would imagine the process, you could speak to this, of evicting somebody is probably like a huge pain, right?
It's a very intense. In some cities, you got to be careful. Some cities, some states, it does take, even if someone's a deadbeat and they're just like, I'm just not going to pay, there are a lot of rules in certain cities to protect the tenant no matter what. And you're doing the best you can. You own this real estate and you have the tenant. They signed an agreement, a contract, and they're like, you know what, I'm just not going to pay. And that is part of the pivoting in business you got to do, especially in real estate.
But would you say overall you're in favor of it, of people buying rental properties?
100%, because you just have to, again, you have to buy for the right price, and then also then choose that's going to be your business. Giving to a third party, this person's good, they're going to manage this property for me. 9 times out of 10, in the good times, it's good. When it's a tough economy like now, you got to roll up your own sleeves. That's why pool a lot of money together. Try to, and buy bigger properties. That way you have economies of scale. I'm a big fan of efficiencies, and then decide that I'm gonna be in the real estate business, and then it's a leap, but it does allow, again, 70% of worldwide wealth is in real estate. I've said it so many times, and it is having assets is the tool for financial freedom. But you're going to have to. The price is dealing with, a roof that has an issue, or a broken elevator, or different issues. But every business, there's not a single business that doesn't have skeletons and issues. You're always going to have it. And that's why, let me sell it because then I'm going to buy something, upgrade. No, that thing is going to have also other issues. Being in business is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, but I do recommend it. But you have to have clarity in the things that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, then it's not going to be considered a headache, internally.
Well, it'll still be one. It'll just be a smaller one.
Really smaller because you'll be like,
It'll be a migraine.
I like that. I like the challenge of it. You're just classifying it.
Yeah. Viewer question, what are your thoughts on the price of home insurance? We live in Florida, and it's just through the roof right now.
So I spoke to someone who's higher up in the government in Florida, and they're looking more at this point, stabilize pricing on insurance, and then the next step, and then it's government, right? So they're doing the best they can. And then hopefully eventually pricing will come down. There has been legislation that's passed on the insurance side that should eventually, more competition is going to come in. But right now, so frustrating. There is gouging by the executives and owners of the insurance companies. And it might go on for another couple of years, which is super exhausting.
But is there gouging because the customers are lying about claims and trying to squeeze money out of the companies? Do you find bad actors in your line of work?
I believe it's on both sides. I believe the insurance company adjusters that come out, they sign a contract, you paid premium. They get bonuses for figuring out ways not to pay claims. That's literally what it is. So that's that side. But then also you have public adjusters that are pushing the envelope and suing, and really it didn't cost as much, the damage, but they're trying to really squeeze. So both sides are super aggressive, and then, like a lot of conflicts, and then the mass, unfortunately, have to pay the price, which is a tragedy. I've seen people where they have, $2,000, $3,000 policy, maybe just a couple of years ago. Now it's like $15,000.
Yeah, sure.
It's terrible.
Terrible.
It's bottom line dollars. Yeah.
Next viewer question. With the rise of remote work, is it time to rethink the value of location when it comes to property investments? Should people be chasing hot markets or focusing on other factors?
I would not necessarily chase hot markets. I would look where trends are going over the next 10 years. I have this theory which I'm thinking about investing this way, so I'll tell you.
Oh, kind of like breaking news.
Breaking news investment tip. And it's hard to see because it's a double whammy. Obviously, interest rates are rising. Real estate pricing is going down. It's tough. Again, there's a lot of fear in the market now. But I am hearing on Fortune 500 companies that hybrid and remote work is not working from a production standpoint, and they're trying to bring people back to the office. So when I'm hearing that, I believe, and I'm wondering whether I'm going to have the guts myself hopefully for pennies on the dollar, to buy distressed office buildings in certain locations, because I do believe in 2 years from now, and we're seeing it somewhat starting, more and more people will actually come back to the office. I don't think functionally hybrid and remote work is here to stay for a long period.
Yeah.
Therefore, from the real estate perspective, buying, again, really low-priced office buildings in good areas, good communities, could be a good real estate investment.
So as we kind of toggle back and forth between real estate and business, how did you handle your business during COVID, after COVID, although I guess we're still sort of in COVID, but after kind of the outbreak in terms of having people come back to the office?
So we actually had a policy. We're here. Our business is here in Florida, and we need to handle. There's a lot of management. There's a lot of things at the properties that need to happen. We're in that business. So that was just the way our corporate structure is. Obviously safety and procedures, but generally we didn't go remote. We were, people would come in the office if they had to be out, and we'd leave that flexibility. But and we've just but now there's another thing where we're in the place in 2024 moving forward where the basics 101 of management, operations and management is super important. You're going to have more delinquency in rents. You're going to have more vacancy. See, rents are coming down, expenses are coming up. So now is when we're getting tested this coming year, the next 12 months. How well are you in managing your properties? It's now.
This question gets asked all the time when it comes to real estate, but sort of renting versus buying in the new year. It depends on people's own personal portfolios, but do you have kind of a advice, maybe like a blanket sheet of numbers that would determine if someone should be renting as opposed to buying?
You have to do the numbers, right? So I believe that rental pricing is coming down, but so may be if you have, let's say, you know what, I want to live in Miami, and I know I want to live here for the next 7 years, 5 years, 7 years, and I'm going to make lowball offers. I have the deposit money, the down payment money. I have it, and I'm ready. I'm ready because it's so exhausting. People I speak to that rent, oh, my rent just got jumped up, 20%, and then even just moving, even if the rent's not, moving from place to place, sometimes at a certain point in your life, you just want to settle down. What am I going to do? I'm going to wait 7 years? No, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. It's not always, the place that I live is not always the place that I'm investing, but I want a sense of calmness. And that is worth the extra money that you pay.
It's a wonderful feeling to own a home until the second day when the sink breaks. And the fourth day when the roof leaks.
This is true. This is true, and I know a lot of people because of that, and we're living in that type of society where it's more about, especially Gen Z, experiences. I don't want to own anything. I want to rent. Fleeting. I guess more millennial. Baby boomers are more. I want calmness. They're like next. I want to travel. That's where I want to spend my money. I don't want to own anything. I just, so it's just a different perspective. I understand that perspective. My kids are, think that way. But again, assets, perhaps the strategy might be rent for yourself. Let's say you're single. Rent for yourself, but the money that you make, let's just say you're working for someone or you're doing something, take that money and buy investment property. Buy investment property, right? Because that's probably the best strategy if you can get, live simple, right? While you're building your investment portfolio, to the extent where I've seen this, right? Live in your car or whatever, or live with your parents.
I mean, how many people have you interviewed on the show who are hugely successful now who did exactly what you're talking about?
That is the recipe. Unfortunately, we're seeing, and falsely, so many young people, look at how I'm living, the fast cars and the planes and the this and that. I don't know how much of that is true. We know that when you peel back the layers, things that I know, a lot of it's not true.
Right.
And it's unfortunate for the youth.
One more rental question. What is your opinion on the impact of short-term rentals like Airbnb on the traditional rental market? Is it time for tighter regulations?
So I think short-term rentals. I'm not so opposed to it. I think short-term rentals really affect the hotel industry. But you take some place like Miami, we don't have enough hotel rooms. As long as there's again, I go back to that safety. Sometimes you'll see people renting Airbnb, and there's not just loud noise, but there's drug use and other. That I'm not a fan of that. But sometimes you'll have a nice family coming from the Midwest, and they want to be here in Miami for the weekend. So that's I'm fine with that. But I don't think it necessarily affects. It's two different boxes, but more the short-term rentals affects maybe hotel room rates more so.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Last viewer question. This is right up your alley. Can you share your perspective on the role of real estate in addressing income inequality and affordable housing? What responsibilities do real estate entrepreneurs have in this regard?
It is very hard. I work in the workforce housing space. That's what I do. I don't do luxury. In the affordable, which is the lower, I guess 3 tiers. There's the affordable, which is kind of really low income. The middle, the kind of first responders, teachers, police. That's the space that I work in, the kind of workforce housing. And then there's luxury condos and luxury. So I'm day-to-day managing that space. But what's happening in that workforce housing space, and when I speak to people in the state, we have a need literally for that type of workforce housing, 500,000 units. It's tremendous need, but the problem is from the private industry, what's happening is it's getting tough. And everybody talked about insurance. We have FPL, utilities are going through the roof, water and sewer is going through the roof. So if we keep having that, we can't keep raising rents and put the burden because they're capped out. The only strategy is some sort of public-private partnership on a mass level, maybe on the federal level, maybe state by state. There has to be some sort of joint venture, strategic, with management companies and investors, all to come together. We can have a symposium or start in Florida, maybe we go national. That's kind of where we got to lean to, and I know that's tough with government, but housing, food, clothing, and shelter, right? Shelter.
Yeah. So is there traction on this?
There is some, right? So, maybe some politicians will come out, oh, look at this help that I've done. It needs like to come to the top of the list. So it's hard. It's hard. It's not an easy issue because each new unit that you build is, let's say, an average of $300,000. So can you imagine the numbers times 500,000 units, $300,000 a unit? It's a very, very hard issue, but a necessary issue. It's talked about day-to-day people I'm speaking to. And we try to provide safe, clean places here in South Florida and other places throughout the country and keep rents reasonable. We try the best that we can.
So you end all of your episodes by asking the guests what they're grateful for and what people don't know about them. And I've asked you those questions before. So in the spirit of this being a new year, I will instead ask you this. What are your New Year's resolutions?
Wow. So I think kind of where I am, my wife's due with our 11th child in a few weeks. And there's a lot of different challenges in the business, and we're growing with it. The podcast is growing. There's many different things that are coming along. And I literally, because a lot of the seeds have been planted, and we talked about this, that to continue to solidify kind of the habits and rituals that allow, because each of these things, and Neighborhood Farms USA is also growing, each of these things are super important, that hopefully I can give the best version of myself to all of these initiatives. Because everything is pretty much in my life right now really important. And I've made the choices that these are the things, I'm 43 now, and these are the things that are important, and that I could show up to the best way that I can to each of these things.
And what about personally? Any hobbies? I know we talked about music a year ago.
So everybody needs time just to like recalibrate, right? I love taking my car, driving on the highway. I do that. Just play some tennis, going to, I went to see Ed Sheeran the other day, and I do like going to see music. It's definitely great. It's funny. I saw, because my wife would say, "What do you always like to go to the movies?" And I saw Patrick Bet-David. He said going to the movies is like therapy for him, and that's what it is. It's just like okay, there's so much going on. It's just like, okay, let's just close down the brain and do that. So I have some of that. Obviously, I do my meditations, and I do. I'm training now for my black belt in jiu-jitsu. So it's a lot, right? It's a lot going on every single day, and that's to the original point. That is what my prayer is. That I will be healthy mind, healthy spirit, to be able to show up to the things and the people that I care about. So
maybe your resolution should be to have a day off in 2024. Just one day.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes.
Yeah.
But then I think that in this life, while we're healthy, we have a lot of things that we got to do.
Yeah. Well,
I guess that's how I'm wired.
Well, thanks, man. This has been fun. Enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Dave. Really, always a pleasure, and I hope we give value to our listeners.
Happy New Year, everybody. And next week, Moshe will be hosting again, so make sure that you check it out.